PFK Week 1 recap. Here we go. Mobile edition today as I'm out in the parking lot waiting on my daughter's tumbling class to conclude. So here we are, nice little opportunity to record. Moving forward, I'd like to try to get these done earlier in the week, but, life happens and, the time may not always be there. Try to keep these as weekly as possible, but without further ado, let's hit it. All right. This may be redundancy to some as I do this for another league that many of you all are in, but huge props to Yahoo. Several years ago, these short weeks, so in other words, Thursday through Sunday used to be a week. It really led to, I felt a lot of pretty diverse scoring, 10-0, 9-1, 8, whatever. It seemed like a lot of the matchups were a big gap. This 11-day period is really good. I think it just kind of, these teams are balanced. I mean, that's the reality of it. It's a 10-team league. The margin between team 1 and the margin between team 10 is actually minimal right now. As the season progresses, injuries happen, inactivity, all that stuff, then the gap gets bigger and bigger. But to start the year, the gap is minuscule, man. Yes, some people has a little bit better keepers. Some people had some instant draft day call-ups from their minors. Not saying, but just by and large, there is very minimal gap between the teams at this stage in the season. So, and as you can see by most of the scores, 3 of the 4 were within two points or 2 categories. We had one tie, that would be, of course, me, and then we did end up having 2 pretty big gaps with MIA and Dougie's and Daniel and Dune, 8-2. Which is typically uncommon for this. But we're going to go ahead and break down the weekly games, and then we're going to talk a little free agency pickups and go from there. All right, so as I mentioned, one tie of the week, that was myself, Northside Flyers against Jordan, BV Broncos. Jordan made a really good comeback. I kind of fell apart there, Saturday-Sunday combo. So that game did have a little bit of separation. Jordan was able to cut that lead and end up fighting out a tie. Jordan took advantage of RBI, stolen base, and average. Winning 3 out of the 5 offensive categories. I'll take the edge in homers with 19 and runs with 71. On the pitching side, I had the 3-2 advantage. Had pretty good counting numbers with 7 wins, 6 saves, and 119 strikeouts. My damn ratio sucked ass. 538, 147 compared to Jordan's 431, 147. Again, 5-5 matchup. Most outstanding player of the week for me, I'm going to go get Garrett Cole. Gave me 2 wins, 19 strikeouts, .73 ERA, .89 whip. The 2-6-4 matchups. First one, we got Acuna. That would be Gabe against C-Rob, 6-4. Man, really good offensive matchup by both teams. I mean, they both had a great week. Charlie would have beat, I think, everyone in the league 5-0 or pretty close to it. Just eyeballing it here. I think he would have beat everyone in the league 5-0 except for Big League Chew, who would have edged him in stolen bases. Ends up losing to Gabe 3-2. Charlie had edged Gabe in RBIs and a 295 average. Gabe, 83 runs, 21 homers, 16 stolen bases. That's all with the 282 average as well. So it's not like his average or his RBIs were bad. I mean, they were great. So, and actually, to be honest with you, I believe every one of those were the best in the league on the offensive side. Pitching, Charlie was great pitching-wise too. Problem was, Gabe was as well. 12 wins for Gabe. 8 saves for Charlie, 112 strikeouts for Gabe, 109 whip, edging Charlie's 127 whip. Charlie bested him in ERA with a league best 309. And I believe the 109 whip posted by Gabe was league high. So Gabe had league highs in whip, wins, runs, home runs, stolen bases. Charlie had weekly highs in ERA, saves, batting average, and RBI. So marquee matchup there. Awesome. That's fun to play around with. Player of the week for that, fittingly Acuna. Posted I have no idea, a 310 average, 2 home runs, 10 runs, 5 RBIs, and 5 stolen bases. The other 6-4 matchup, Joe 6-4 edge over Kyle. Another pretty top matchup. Kyle bested him in runs, 75-62, deadlocked at home runs, 16 apiece. Joe got the edge in RBI, 66-53. Kyle, 15 stolen bases with the 276 average, bested Joe in both categories. On the pitching side, wasn't as marquee or wasn't as elite as on the offensive side, but Joe ends up getting wins, saves 10-6 to 7-5. Ends up getting 125 strikeouts, which I believe were the best in the league. Yes, and then ended up with a sub 4 ERA and a 1.31 WHIP. Kyle did not have a good pitching week as far as ratios, 479 and 140 respectively. Player of the week for that one, Gleyber Torres, man. Really good week. 357 average, 2 home runs, 6 RBIs, and 5 stolen bases. That's very, very interesting from Torres. It'll be interesting to see if he can keep that up. And then in the lopsided matchups, you had Daniel 8-2 over Dune. Daniel had a really, really good week as well, and I did completely miss Daniel's home runs. Daniel actually led the league with 27 home runs in the matchup. That's incredible. Had 71 runs, 74 RBIs, 10 stolen bases, and a 281 average. A really, really nice, respectable week from him with the bats, besting Dune across the board in those. On the pitching side, Dune was able to take I wrote those down wrong. Ended up getting him in strikeouts 108 and wins 7-6. Basically a dead heat. ERA came down to the thousandths, with Daniel getting the 349 advantage to Dune's 349. So we're talking thousandths of 10 thousandths of point in ERA advantage there. So that was a pretty deadlock category. Player of the week, Springs, 2 wins, 19 Ks, 0 ERA, 0.54 WHIP. Can't ask much more than that. And then in the biggest lopsided matchup so far, MIA, I believe that is Dale. Changed his name on us this year. Not My Fantasy is Dale. Apologize, Dune, for throwing you under the bus there. Not My Fantasy is Dale, and MIA is Dune. So Dune edges Dougie's 66-15-65 on the counting stats, 256 on average. Dougie's did end up getting 9 stolen bases to 6 to get their one category. On the pitching side, Dune had a really good week too. 6 wins, 5 saves, 107 Ks. Really, really good ERA with 3.44 and a 1.13 WHIP. That was top 3 in the league, as well as a top 3 ERA to go with that. Player of the week for Dune, Xander Bogaerts, 324 average, 3 homers, 9 runs, 8 RBIs, 0 stolen bases. So solid week for Xander in the new Padres unis. Kind of looking at the wire, some notable pickups I liked. Dale, Marcus Stroman, $3. I think that infield defense could really help Stroh out. He is typically more of a contact pitcher. First 2 games, he did end up getting some strikeouts, which is not necessarily his forte. We're not talking Miles Michaelis here, but we are talking a guy with a sub-9 K per 9. So, I wouldn't necessarily expect the plus 9 K per 9 that he had the first 2 starts. That being said, that infield defense is really, really solid, and I can totally see a scenario in which he's able to post a low 3s ERA with a pretty respectable WHIP and wins are a toss-up. Who knows there? But I could see Stroman have a pretty good season with a $3 fab bid. Tyler McGill, Gabe, I really like that. He's a guy that was huge on. Really worried about at the beginning of the year with him losing the rotation spot to Peterson. Then, within a matter of days, Verlander gets sidelined and a rotation spot opens up. The way he's pitched, I really do not worry much at all about him losing the spot. I think he's got the leg up on Peterson. And then I also think with Carrasco struggles and stuff that it's no given that McGill maybe could take his spot. Jesse picked up, I think it's the Montero dude for Colorado. I cannot think of what his actual first name, Azaria or whatever, third baseman for the Rockies. I think he got kind of banged up here within the last couple of days, so he's been out of lineup, but he looks like a guy who is going to start the majority of the time. He solid minor league numbers. Throw in that ballpark. I think you could have something there for a free fab bid like that. Joe, very aggressive with Nolan Gorman. I can't say that I love it, but I could totally see if Gorman plays out to what Gorman potentially could have been, it being worth 37, if that makes sense. I can easily see this within 2 weeks, the Gorman hitting the wire because, Cardinals do have some depth, between Donovan and Edman. Most of their logjam is in the outfield, but they do have some scenarios with the middle infield, depending on how you move the parts. So I do see it, a scenario of Gorman struggles where he could lose playing time, much like he did at the tail end of last year. But he had a lot of hype coming up, kind of fell flat on his face. You see it all the time. Year number 2, people really take hold. I can totally see Gorman being worth this price and fab. Joey Gallo, $2 by Dell. Fittingly, he would go on the IL just days later, but I actually like that pick. Gallo, for all of his faults, is a potential 40-homer guy. That's a pretty good lineup. I totally understand it being worth $2. And then Dell, $3 on Anderson. And as I'm sitting here, I wrote just Anderson down, thinking, okay, I have no idea looking at it now who the fuck Anderson is, outside of I thought that it was a good pickup. I don't think that would be Tyler Anderson. I don't think that was Nick Anderson. So whoever the Anderson was, I was a fan of it. And again, as I'm sitting here looking at my notes, I'm sorry, Dale, to cut you, not give you your proper praise for the whichever Anderson you picked up. But whichever Anderson you pick up, pat on your back, buddy. I thought it was a pretty good bid for $3. No trades to speak of. So that's pretty much it. We're obviously in the midst of week 2 now. It has been a injury-plagued season thus far. I believe in PFK, I've managed to avoid it for the most part. Obviously, I lost Verlander at the beginning of the year, but I don't think I've had any in season. But, you've had Seager go on the IL. You've had Anderson, Woodruff. Shit, Anderson on the brain. Oh, that's who it was. Brian Anderson. See? Whew, all comes back. Brian Anderson, nice pickup, man. 2-3 years ago, I loved him in Florida. I think his maybe rookie year, second year, one of the two. And just kind of fell out of favor after a subpar, I think, COVID year. And then kind of lost playing time and stuff after some struggles last year. Milwaukee does a really good job of bringing those guys in, tweaking some stuff, and having a pretty good season. So far, they've done kind of the same thing with Winker. He's had a pretty good start to this season. So I actually like Anderson there. Third base outfield eligibility, nice little pickup for $3. Now going back to Woodruff injury. So, obviously, Injuries, you have to avoid them. They're landmines. It's all part of it. Obviously, in our league, 10 teams, a little bit easier to replace. However, there's some positions like shortstop. Ugh. Middle infield. I mean, it's terrible. Like the waivers, the potential targets there in middle infield, even in a 10-team format, is pretty disgusting. So, big advantage to those who are able to avoid injury and potentially separate themselves from the pack, given a good bill of health for the 2023 season. So, again, that's the Week 1 recap for PFK, and look forward to talking with you all next week.